Welcome, dear friends, to yet another lecture on postmodernism. I'm sure you have listened to the previous lectures, and I hope that you are complementing the lectures with your personal reading and your personal updation. From this lecture onwards, we shall discuss some of the commonly used literary devices of the postmodern literature. Now, these devices, they have been used previously as well. Now, we will see some other common literary devices that are used in postmodern literature, and we shall be discussing parody and pastiche. And in our lecture today, we shall concentrate on the first literary device, that is the parody. We have all heard about parody as a literary device. We know the meaning of parody. Now, parody is an imitation of a writer, imitation of an artist, or imitation of a subject or a genre in such a way as to make fun or comment on the original work, to make fun or comment. Now, parodies are often exaggerated in the way they imitate the original. So, exaggerated imitation of the original. What is the purpose? In order to produce a humorous effect, or in order to comment, or in order to ridicule. Parodies are generally intended to amuse, but sometimes they take on serious matters. In general, parodies find something to ridicule within the original. Now, this is important. Parodies find something to comment or something to ridicule within the original, whether lightly or harshly. So, there is an element of commenting, there is an element of ridicule in parody. If we talk about the etymology, the origin of this particular term, the word and definition of parody comes from the Greek word parodia. Now, what is the meaning of parodia? Parody is a narrative poem that imitated the style or of the ancient Greek epic poems. So, imitated the style of the ancient Greek poems, but often dealt with mock heroic or light subjects. So, imitation of Greek epic poems. And Aristotle would state that it was Hegemon of Thasos, who lived around 400 BC, as the father of parody. Now, he would take Hegemon of Thasos, he would take well-known poems of his day, and he would alter the wording slightly so that the sublime became ridiculous. So, he would take the original and he'll alter slightly so as to make it ridiculous. Now, parody treats with one author or one style or genre where it will distort or will subvert the conventions of the original. So, this is, please make this, please remember this. Parody will distort or subvert the conventions of the original. So, the audience should be aware of the original of which the parody is written to get the joke. So, it will make fun of the original. The reader should know the original work. Now, what is the significance of parody in literature? Now, parody has been in literature for thousands of years now. Now, parody is used for many reasons. Parody can be a form of homage to a particular writer. Now, some beginners, some writers who are beginning their career and writing career, they may take the style of a famous author to get a little more attention or to get a practice in the act of writing. Thus, they use the conventions of a famous writer not to criticize or to mock, but it is a recognition for such existing conventions. So, parody may be a technique, a device that is used by some beginners in writing who will take the style of a famous existing author. So, it is a homage to the well-known author. And the second purpose may be some authors use parody to make their readers laugh. The second purpose of parody is to make the audience or to make the readers laugh. The third purpose may be some authors use parody to comment on styles they find ridiculous or stale. So, to comment, to ridicule, to criticize, it can be used, parody can be used. And in this lecture, we shall see three famous examples of parody, and we will learn Don Quixote by Cervantes. Now, Don Quixote by Cervantes, it is a parody because the entire epic work is based on the tradition of the knight errant. Now, knight errant was a famous tradition in Cervantes' day, knight errant. A knight errant is a figure of medieval chivalric romance literature. So it is making a parody of the knight errant. Who is a knight errant? Is a figure of medieval chivalric romantic literature. Now, the adjective errant indicates how the knight errant would wander the land in search of adventures to prove his chivalric virtues, either in knightly duels or in some other pursuit of courtly love. So the knight is wandering the land to prove his chivalric virtues, either in knightly duels or in some other pursuit of courtly love. So now this is parodied in Don Quixote. A man named Alonso Quijano takes on a new identity, that of Don Quixote, and sets on a quest with his lance, an ancient shield, a skinny bag, and his friend Sancho Panza. His quests are mostly ridiculous, such as the famous scene in which he fights the windmills. Ridiculous. Cervantes used this parody to help usher a new era of literature, and he would state the old chivalric tales as out of date. So Don Quixote by Cervantes is a parody. He is ridiculing or mocking the literature of the times. The second example that we can consider is the Argentine writer George Louis Borges. He created the concept of parody in his short story Pierre Menard, author of the Quixote. Pierre Menard, author of the Quixote. And now in the story, Borges imagines a writer who reconstructs Cervantes' novel Don Quixote word by word. Now the new Quixote is not mere copy, but a far richer parody than the original. The author's life experience and era in which he was writing, and the time which had passed since the original Quixote was published, made it far richer than the original Don Quixote. So the parody is far richer than the original. Borges' story is interesting in the way that he examines what is original, what is an imitation, and how parody can take on far more shades of meaning in the way that it comments on the original. So the parody is much more, or the parody is richer than the original. So that is the second example that we can consider when we learn about this particular literary device called parody. Now the third familiar example that we can keep in our mind when we talk about parody is Jonathan Swift was famous for his satires and parodies. Jonathan Swift, and his excerpts from Gulliver's travels. Now, Gulliver comes upon a group of warring neighbors. We have learned about it, the Lilliputians and the people of Blefuscu. Now, these two groups, the Lilliputians and the people of Blefuscu, these two groups stand in for England and France. And we have learned the history of English literature, and thus are a parody of the endless rivalries between these two countries, England and France. So this is used to parody, to ridicule the situation that existed between, enmity that existed between England and France. Now, what is the comparison of parody with satire? Very often we need to understand what is the difference between parody and satire. Similarity between parody and satire. What is the similarity? Both parody and satire are used to comment or to ridicule something in culture that already exists. So both are used to comment or ridicule. Now, satire is broader than parody, much bigger than parody. It has at his disposal many other literary devices with which it uses to ridicule the problem. So the satire is broader than parody. Now those literary devices are double entendre and sarcasm, etc. Now many satires make use of parody also to produce the witty or biting effect. So we can say satire is broader than parody. Satire makes use of even parody to comment or ridicule. So my dear students, this is a short lecture on parody. This is one of the literary devices that is also used in the postmodern times. So we have seen about this parody. It is used to comment or ridicule the existing work. We have seen the three cases in which the parody is used. Primarily it is used to mock or comment, to ridicule. We have seen also a comparison between satire and parody, and we have seen 3 famous examples of parody. I hope this short lecture on parody you have understood. Please complement your notes and learning with extra reading and listening to extra lectures. Thank you for your patient listening. Hope to meet you again with another lecture on pastiche.